Hey everybody, welcome back to the Batmosphere. I'm Captain Logan, and I'm looking at the hold on. There we go. There's the Batmosphere. Welcome back, everybody. Look, it's Dan's news. How's it going, Dan?
Look, it's Captain Logan too.
It's me. It's the both of us. Yeah, look at
everybody. Although now we're gonna switch. we're gonna transform, and then all of a sudden, like, I need to go like into your screen, and then come. Oh, we should do like a thing like that one time. Let's figure that out.
Wow, that sounds complicated. There's no way we make that work right.
It'll work out. Maybe my cat will hop like off screen, and then your cat will hop in on the other side of the thing. I think that whole thing could work. We'll coordinate it.
That's yeah. We're gonna need to get some cat wranglers for that, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Welcome everybody to the Batmosphere. It's episode 5. It's been a while since we've seen you, and since I have hung out with Dan's news. Dan, I've been stoked to see you all day, man. It feels like it's been forever. How are things, and how's the project you've been working on? I haven't seen Dan because he's making a movie.
Oh yeah, we're making Kamisado, the event series. That's what it's called. My brother is very dramatic with titling.
Okay, I couldn't remember if it was a movie or a series. As soon as I said that, I was like, I bet he's going to say series. And
it's essentially like we're filming it like a movie, and it's 6 episodes. They're all 20 minutes each, so it's 2.5 hours worth of content. So it is like filming a feature, and it is like a big movie, just broken in between episodes. So it is that kind of thing. It's going well. I mean, it's put off right now because of all of the, you know,
for the same reason that life has ended for the rest of us.
Everything has stopped, but we're 70% of the way through production. It's going great. I'm the director of photography for it, so I'm the one filming it all, and it's one of the reasons why we haven't done Batmosphere here since last month. But
now Batmosphere is about the only thing we can do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's time.
My job, happily, is not all that affected by this. I can still, you know, I have to stay in my house, which is where I make the videos anyway. So there's a part of me that wishes that I had saved the 24-hour stream for now, for the virus crisis, but didn't know there was going to be a zombie apocalypse, so...
Yeah, I feel like I've been apologizing to everybody. It's like, I'm sorry to say this, but like it is kind of nicer. There's more people showing up to streams because they don't have anything to do, but it's just like... Yeah, kind of like I've been social distancing for a good long while here. Doing what we do online.
Are you going stir crazy yet? Are you losing your mind?
I'm not really. Like, I still walk to the store every now and again. Like,
it's not like you're not leaving your house. It's not like if you go outside, you'll breathe in some sort of toxin and die. It's not that kind of crisis.
It's not too bad. I actually do have a job tomorrow. I'm going to go do some filming for an hour and a half, but then after that, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm just staying inside and doing my thing. And,
yeah, I certainly don't want to be flippant about this. Obviously, I feel bad for anybody that has wound up with the virus, and for anybody that has had terrible symptoms, and for the few people that have passed away from this. It's weird how you can sometimes, like, you know, unconsciously benefit from a thing like this, depending on what your situation is. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah, it's easier to get folks to watch you right now, but the trade-off is everything I had going on this month got canceled. Like, I had conventions to go to. Planet Comic-Con's out. The pinball convention I was going to go to is out. There are no movies. This is gonna affect us negatively down the road when there's nothing to review because nobody can make anything right now. And crazy to imagine how long this could last because there's just no telling. Could be a couple months. Hopefully it's not any longer than that. But yeah. So I'm glad that in this country anyway we've been smart about you know, going ahead and canceling things that would end up making this spread farther probably if we kept things going. Like, it sucks, but I don't think it's an overreaction. I think we've needed to do that. School entirely here has just, as of a few hours ago, been canceled until the end of the school year. There is no school for the rest of this school year.
Oh, yeah. Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, and I didn't really think about that too
And
much.
that's wild.
Wow.
But at the same time, I'm thinking, oh, wait, it is already late in March, you know?
Yeah,
This could last till June. If we were in January and they said that, I'd be like, I think you might be jumping the gun a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think about that school was almost out. It always seems like it's such a big deal leading into school starting, and then like only a few months later, seemingly it's just done. Like when I was a kid, school felt like forever, but it's really really not that long. But yeah.
So obviously, a lot of folks probably are going to have time to do more Batman things.
Yeah.
And so, as always, we're going to chat some Batman tonight. Spotlight on Clayface. Tonight we are going to review the Clayface arc throughout the Batman. Originally, we were just going to do the last 2 episodes at the end of season 1, that end out that season. And I want to say that's that show's first 2-parter. And it's
sure.
and it's the what is the name of that? The tragedy of Clayface is the second part. The first part is the Rubber Face of Comedy, and Clayface of Tragedy, and then we decided to go ahead and watch the other major Clayface episodes, which I'm glad we did, especially because that first one ends on such a downer, and then second one also ends on such a downer, and I was glad that we went ahead and did the whole arc. But we will be talking about that tonight. We'll also reveal our definitive Clayface a little bit later. And we're going to start off, as we always do, with Bat Life. But before we get there, let me just say I hope everybody is doing okay. And thanks a bunch for watching us live. Right now, we sure appreciate you. And leave your comments after the fact if you are watching this later on. And we appreciate you guys, too, as well. We will answer some live questions at the end of the show on the Bat Chat segment, as we always do. And Dan's, we're going to start with you and tell us if there's anything cool related to Batman you've been doing recently, sir.
Ooh, well, I've been just feverishly consuming the Harley Quinn animated show. I'm sure I'm a broken record on this, on Batmosphere, because I feel like all I'm ever talking about is like, I'm playing the Arkham games and I'm watching that Harley Quinn cartoon.
Simultaneously? Did you do it at the same time?
Yeah, I probably will start doing it at some point.
There's somebody playing Arkham right now while they're listening to us.
That's true. Yeah, Jesse Gramico. Playing some Arkham.
Is that a friend of yours?
Enjoy.
Is that somebody you know?
Which Arkham? No, I have no idea who that is.
Oh, okay. That is a new name to me as well. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah. Which Arkham are you playing? But yeah, so I've actually watched. I've seen every single episode at least twice of that series, and like I've seen the first 7 episodes maybe 3 or 4 times. I'm kind of obsessed with that show.
It's really good.
It's hilarious. It's so well written. The voice acting is excellent. The characterization is just so spot on and yet hilariously just off just enough. Speaking of Clayface on that show is one of the highlights.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He is just ridiculously hammy and so good. But I was just really impressed on how they managed to really kind of thread the needle and bring it like full circle throughout that first season. You haven't finished it yet.
I have not, so don't reveal anything in that last
no reveals
2
or
episodes.
anything. Yeah, but it's just fantastic. Like I finished that last episode, and I was just like, my goodness, I can't wait for them to come back. Luckily, there's not that long of a break. They're coming back in April, I believe.
Yeah, so, according to Blue Dragon 5, they're coming back next month, so it won't even feel like a season 2, probably. Well, it might story-wise and tonally, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, where it leaves off, it feels like it's they're probably gonna have to pick up right where they left off. But yeah, it's really good, and my biggest thing is like I'm just so impressed it is as good as it is, because it just feels like there's no reason it should be as good as it is, and it's probably, for my money, the best thing that's on DC Universe that's like that they're producing for it.
Yeah, it really feels like a passion project. And it is, it's weird. I mean, I've said this before, but it's weird how good the storytelling is. Because initially, it feels like it might just be a bunch of raunchy jokes, but you get kind of an inkling of, well, okay, but there is kind of a character here, and Harley Quinn looks like she could be a little bit layered. And she's not just Deadpool, and as it goes along, it gets gradually archy, which I really appreciate. The humor continues to be somewhat raunchy and really adult, but also really clever, and so it hits my comedic sensibilities in ways that I didn't expect that it would. And just a big variety of different kinds of comedy, like really silly kind of kiddish comedy mixed in with like really rough, sometimes kind of gross comedy, but not so far that like I gotta turn it off, because not that kind of thing. It just pushes envelopes in every kind of way, and it's a brilliant balancing act. By where I've gotten to in it, I'm now invested in characters, which is a thing I didn't know if that could happen or not. So like that whole universe is so absurd and ridiculous, and yet it does kind of have an internal logic. I kind of understand how that world works.
Yeah, it's so good. It's really good, and I'm happy that it exists.
I think it's possible that will turn into my favorite version of Harley Quinn, which should not be possible in a show like that.
I
But
know.
she's really interesting, and kind of smart. And I'm like, it might. I don't know. It's one of the smarter Harley Quinns I've seen, which I was not expecting from that show. You figured she'd be just, ditzy and stupid, and they like actually think about the therapy part.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the fact that she had to have been trained to be a therapist. And it's not the version that you and I were looking at with the animated series where she finds a way to kind of like sleep her way up or whatever. Like, she really is a good psychologist.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of like Joker is her blind spot. And that, so she does, in the first episode, she learns to kind of how to self-analyze, and because she never really looked at herself until emancipated herself, until the emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
Yeah, and I still say it's really sad that
We're still going. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
I can hear you, Dan.
I heard a beep.
Are you good?
It scared me. Skype was dying.
I don't know what.
We're good.
I don't know what that was. We never lost you. You were good.
Okay, good.
I'm just in the middle of something, and suddenly I'm just hearing Dan go, hey! like your General Zod stuck in a piece of glass. He's like, hey!
Just floating through space.
Yeah. I thought it was really unfortunate that Birds of Prey came out just as that show was building such an audience and getting so good. It's really unfortunate that somehow they couldn't have put that movie into production like a year after that show got popular, so it could have influenced it a little bit. Because some of the things that that movie is attempting to do, I think that show is doing like 10 times better.
Yeah. The show is definitely better than the movie. I really like the movie.
You might have liked that more than I did, but I'm sure you agree it ain't as sophisticated as that show, though.
Oh no,
I don't like that movie at all. Like we can disagree on that, but it ain't. But even if you like it, it's nowhere near the story quality of that show, which I would not have thought I would be saying 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I'm happy it exists. That's my biggest thing. Is like I'm very surprised.
Whenever people do that, I think for some reason DJ was doing that on the show last week. I think, and was it DJ or was it Connor? Somebody I was doing a video with last week was doing that, and I was making fun of them because I didn't know why they were doing that. I was like, "What are you, a mime?" I'm gonna stop saying mime. I'm gonna start saying General Zod. Like, what are you stuck in a mirror?
Yeah.
Dan, have you been? And one day you're heirs. Dan, have you been doing any other Batman stuff recently?
I've been feverishly following the like any kind of news coming out of the Batman. I really like the Batmobile reveal.
Yeah, I thought we could talk about that later. I mean, I've talked about that on the Captain Logan show, but we haven't heard from you on it yet. So I'll put the picture up and we'll talk about it. Yeah.
So just been following that stuff. Not really doing too much other than really kind of following Harley Quinn as it came around. Kamisada was really kind of sapping up a lot of my time throughout the last couple months.
Yeah, sure.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was about it.
Well, I haven't personally been doing a ton of stuff. I'm going to show you guys some new Batquisitions here in a minute. Some new Batman stuff that I bought. But I got to tell you, after the last couple days, Dan's going through the Clayface episodes, the next thing I want to do is blow through the Batman. I'm so in the mood for that right now. Like, I've come around on that show anyway, especially, because as a lot of you guys know, at one time I was really down on that show. When it first came out, I didn't like it, and I don't think I appreciated what it was doing. And I didn't watch far enough. I think the episodes I happened to catch on TV were some of the lesser episodes of season 1. I didn't see any of the really good ones. So, like, if I had seen, I don't know, even if I'd seen that Bane episode first, I probably would have, well, this is interesting. But I didn't. I saw the Penguin, and their Penguin's not great, and I can't remember what else I saw. But then, years later, I went ahead and tackled the Batman vs. Dracula on Superhero Rewind and was like, oh, wait, this is actually really good.
I remember you liking that one. I've never seen it, but I watched your rewind on it.
You should. It's really good. And it was really easy to sink my teeth into it, man. It does some really interesting character and thematic stuff.
Was that a Dracula pun right there?
It really wasn't, but I want to take credit for it. I should be taking credit for that, yeah.
Yeah, you sunk your teeth into it and sucked its blood a little bit.
And then later, when the Batman was on Netflix for a while before DC Universe came up, I started watching through that first season, but I never got to the Clayface arc. And now I just really want to blow through that show. Like it's grabbing me tonally in a way that it hadn't before, and I don't know exactly what that is and like how my sensibilities have changed, but just that kind of like gothic, almost like dark Venice look that it has is like really grabbing me now. And some of like the lighting stuff that they do in that show, like it's never a normal looking sky. It's always orange or red, or there's a really cool atmospheric thing that show is doing that's suddenly grabbing me, and so I'm like majorly in the mood to watch more of that. So I'm gonna have to start doing that. But let me show you guys a few things that I got recently. So new pop figures. As a lot of you guys know, I collect every Batman pop figure, not peripheral characters. It has to be Batman. So my rule is it's gotta have bat ears. So it's gotta be either Batman or a Batgirl, and I guess I collect some of the Bruce Waynes too, but for the most part, just Batman with ears. So I got this one. This is another Jim Lee one. They put out a lot of Jim Lee pops this year. I've got some weird glare on this, but
love the cape.
That's a cool looking one. Yeah, the cape's awesome. And then finally, and this is not one of my favorite pops or anything, but I had been looking for this at a reasonable price for years, and I finally got it. I'd only ever seen this for 25 or 30, and I found it for 15 last week. This is Caveman Batman. I don't know why we have to have that, but there's and he's been around for years, and I finally found him.
Looks like they took a Batman head off of a pop and then stuck it on a different pop, like Bam Bam from Flintstones or something.
Yeah, or George of the Jungle or something.
There you go.
Yeah. Batman of the Jungle. Watch out for that tree. Yeah. That's what happens when Batman uses the wrong grapple point. Anyway. And then, recently, Dan, I found these, I say I found, my dad actually bought these, and I bought some, from him. These are from the late 70s, I believe, and, I'm just gonna show you guys the Batman one, but this is an oversized comic. This is, one of these, like, big, I don't know what you even call these. It's like a pristine format thing, but it's like, just comics reprinted in a giant size, and this is in like really pretty shape. This is some like Dick Giordano stuff, and some Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil.
Is that like absolute size or whatever it's called? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's maybe even a little bit bigger than that.
Oh wow.
But yeah, I'm not sure what they call these, but I had seen these before but never had anything this size. Now I've got 8 or 10 of these, and they're really pretty. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell the scale of it real well on camera, but it's pretty big.
I get it.
Yeah, so that's neat. And then I got an art piece. Give me 1 second.
Sure. Hi everybody, welcome to Danmosphere with Dan, since Cap came.
I had to take my headphones off. I don't know what he was saying.
No, I wasn't taking over the show. No.
Well, yeah, but you don't have any way to, like, eject me or, you know, shut it down or anything. So if I show back up, you're screwed. It's like, yeah, I took over the show. What are you going to do about it? Take it back, I guess. I guess that's what I'm going to do.
Taking back the show. I'm sorry. Taking back. No, I don't have an empty cup. Never mind. A full cup of water doesn't work as well.
Here's what's great, though. If you don't talk into a paper towel tube or something... Yeah. If you see, the mug doesn't work though. It still sounds exactly the same. But
what do you mean? The mug doesn't work. The mug only works if you're born in the dark. Mazel tov. Bane on Harley Quinn is my favorite.
I like my coffee black, like the night. No, if you do a Bane without like a cup or a paper towel roll or something at this point. It's just the Harley Quinn Bane. Like, there are now technically two slightly different versions of that. Like, if you're not talking into something, it just sounds like him, because clearly he's just trying to do that voice without any modulation, and it's awesome. It's like,
so
he doesn't even sound like he's wearing a mask. It's like he's just you doing that. He's like,
talking like this.
We're no
That's all
survivor.
he does.
Yeah. No, you do, like, your Bane has always been really funny, but you actually are nailing the Harley Quinn Bane. Like, it's 99% the Harley Quinn Bane. It's almost exactly that voice. Here is a art piece I got. Ooh. This is the Batman Who Laughs, who I agree with people who say has been oversaturating DC Comics lately, and there's way too much of him, but I still love the look of it, and nice to have some more recent modern stuff like this for the bunker. I found this at the mall. I found this at an FYE, and was like, yeah, I gotta have that. So
that looks so neat.
It's pretty cool.
That's real cool.
So yeah, that's all my Batman stuff. Dan, let's go ahead and move on to Bat News.
I refuse.
All right. Well, luckily I took the show back, and
sounds good.
The joke's on you. Okay, so let me see if there's any cool stuff here to talk about. Oh, look, here's some. Hold on. Here's some new statues that were just announced from DC Direct. There's a. Can you see that? There's a Harley Quinn, and it looks like a Batman holding a Joker card. Do they show these any bigger?
Are they still adding to the black and white series? Is that what
it looks like? They are. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I can see the stand.
No, that's pretty cool. I like that. I don't have any of those. I've thought about buying some of those before. And then they did a Deadshot.
Oh, I like his pose.
Yeah.
Looks like he's striking one.
And obviously, Harley Quinn's really big right now, so there's a Harley Quinn. And she just looks kind of, I don't know, normal.
Yeah.
I'm not super impressed with that, but yeah. The Batman has shut down production like everything else, so, that's not surprising.
They seem to be one of the ones that was going to try to push through, because like everybody had announced their productions were shutting down, and then Warner Brothers was continuing on for Matrix and Batman, but then they, like, a few days later shut down.
Yeah, I didn't think there was any chance that they would be able to. I want to rant about something for just a second, if I may.
Sure.
And this is going to drive some people crazy because this isn't, totally Batman related, and I'm still talking about the virus. But I got to mention this because it's been driving me nuts. I should save this for Thursday, but I might talk about it there too. I keep seeing things claiming that they're not gonna cancel that are like far off, and I'm like, it's not up to you though. You're not really gonna get to decide that. It's gonna be mostly a government call, right? Like, I'm going to Power MorphCon in September, assuming that this is all done by then, and I'm sure it will be by then. But they took to Twitter and were like, nobody worry, we have no plans to cancel. Like, why would you have plans to cancel? Like, it's not really going to be up to you. I realized that some people were like, self-imposing things and shutting stuff down, just trying to be careful, and I certainly, respect that and commend that. But, like, the way I would have worded that would be, like, nobody panic, it's a few months down the road, hopefully we'll get lucky and we won't have to cancel. But it's like, we're not going to cancel. Nobody worry. And I'm like, it's like George Costanza walking out of a job interview, and the job interviewer saying, barring any unforeseen incident, you have the job. And then George messes it up. But like, yeah, that's all they had to say. But I just think it's I keep seeing stuff like that. So when movie productions, when like Matrix and stuff are like, we're not going to shut down, it's like, that's not going to be up to you ultimately. If there's a state of emergency called, and the government goes, anything over 10 people or whatever, like we have around here right now, like, yeah, you're not going to be able to have that. I got lucky that that hadn't been called by last Friday when I went to a comedy show. If that comedy show was tomorrow, it wouldn't be happening. I wouldn't get to go to it. So yeah, I went and saw John Lovitz. That was cool.
Oh, I was going to ask who it was. Hey, John Lovitz, that's awesome.
It was John Lovitz. He was pretty good.
Love me some John Lovitz. Yeah, he has his own comedy club in, I think, L.A.
He did. It got shut down.
Oh, dang. Due to the coronavirus?
No, it got shut down a couple of years ago, I think, or a year or two ago. It's been a little while now. But yeah, he had, this has nothing to do with Batman. He had a big issue with the guy that was running it, who was allegedly stealing money and stuff, and he had to shut it down. So he had a bad business arrangement, it sounded like. But anyway, so the Batman shutting down for 2 weeks, and it's going to be interesting to see if any dates for some of these movies are going to have to move. I would think that just 2 weeks, if they're able to come back, they'll probably still be able to keep their date. But if it's much longer than that. Who knows?
Yeah, Fast and Furious. The ninth one, they just pushed that back like a year. I think.
And it's done. Yeah, I mean, it was just about to come out in a couple months, wasn't it?
They were already advertising for it. Yeah, I'd imagine it was probably coming out summertime.
Those are
but I
usually
think they're just
movies,
completely pushing off. So,
and I think a lot of things could end up going that way too. See, here's the thing. These are kind of two different situations, right? So if you have something that's done that was about to come out and it gets pushed back to next year, that's because they don't want to open against anything that's already slated, right? Where they're looking, is my guess, they're looking for a weekend that's already pretty open. So if they're like, well, this year is pretty booked up, and we don't want to go up against anybody, or these movies are always supposed to come out in the summer, we don't want to put it out in the fall or in January or something. Like it's January would be the kiss of death for a Fast and the Furious movie, I would think.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
You push it back to the next year. But what is going to happen when a bunch of movies all do that, and then you have movies later that can't come out because movie theaters are shut down, or they're afraid that nobody's going to show up, and they all have to be pushed back. So, like, you're going to see a bunch of movies all vying for certain spots for certain weekends.
Oh yeah.
Next year, and it's gonna be interesting because it's gonna get really cluttered. Like, we're gonna have a period this year where you're not gonna be able to see much of anything, and then next year you're gonna see some like bunching up and stuff get real cluttered.
Yeah.
Potentially.
It's so strange. It's just strange all the way around. I mean, Universal just recently announced that they're going to be doing day and date releases.
Yes, I was going to mention
theaters
that.
and to streaming. So their Emma movie, the Invisible Man's going to be coming out on there, even though that's already been released. But that's going to be coming out early. And then they have what's the other big one they had coming out here? They actually had a pretty big movie coming around, but I can't remember what it was. But
yeah, I'm not sure.
So it's just like, it's a lot of people were kind of predicting that this could be the big chance for streaming services to kind of just kind of bolster up their subscriber base. And this might be the new way of, because the theater industry has already been trying to struggle to make ends meet. And this could be the final push. Some people think like, oh, it's a little too early to call. But like, I think this might be the kind of big change in conversation when it comes to the theatrical window.
Boy, that's really
the 3-month
interesting.
thing.
Yeah. Once again, this is kind of more Captain Logan show talk, but I want to talk about it with you because
it's off of this topic.
Yeah. So, what's interesting about that is I think it is kind of jumping the gun and too close to call to be like, if this only lasted 2 weeks or a month or even just a couple of months, that shouldn't just completely shut down movie theaters or get most people to move to just streaming. However, what it does... It's going to
take out the small theaters, most probably.
At least for a minute, but when they come back, does that really affect things that much? It's a question. But just being shut down that long for any business that's barely making it could be enough to make them have to file Chapter 11. But that's not about changing the conversation like you're talking about as far as whether or not we're going to continue to consume movies by getting in our cars and driving to them. With what it does do, like you said, in changing the conversation, I like the way you put that, is it potentially becomes a proving ground. So if companies put out some of these movies earlier than they usually would, or even movies that were supposed to go to the theater and they don't even release theatrically now first, they just go to streaming for a minute. And by streaming, I mean mostly just like rentals, right? Like, I don't think we're seeing anything go like directly to Netflix or anything. I think it's like you have to pay to watch it at home. If those do really well, it could change everything. If that becomes, if it's like an experiment where it's like let's take the opportunity to see if people will pay for this, it could change things. On the other hand, it's hard to say how much it will affect things, because when nobody has any choice but to watch it at home and they can't go to the theater, once you open theaters up again, it's really hard to say what that will do to the business.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even if theaters become a bit more of a boutique thing and you only go to see kind of the bigger movies for that stuff, as long as they're still showing the wide range of movies, even if they are hitting streaming, I would still want to go to the theater, because I'm one of those, weirdos who like seeing everything in the theater. So like, people like me will still be going to the theaters, but an average Joe, movie watcher who sits at home and watches Netflix and all that stuff will most probably take the route of, oh, I'll just pay a couple bucks to rent it.
I think it could be even worse for any movie that's not a big, giant blockbuster or part of a huge franchise than it has been before, and get us closer to demolishing the studio system, like we're talking about. I think it could have at least minimal effects. It's gonna have some kind of effect. I think it is going to matter. We've never seen anything like this in our lifetime. I don't think, and I don't mean just for entertainment. I think just in general. I mean, like you and I have never seen anything labeled a pandemic and forcing businesses to close. In our lifetime, that's never happened. And
there's been kind of like little flirts with it, but not really. Like as far as like H1N1 and SARS back in the day, but never anything that affected the globe like this.
And in entertainment, the worst it's ever been is like, oh, there's a writer's strike.
Yeah. That's probably the closest thing as far as like production shutting down and,
Let's take a look at a little bit more news. So there's not any more the Batman news. I don't think that I haven't already talked about a little bit on the Captain Logan show, but we will take one more look at the car because I want your opinion on the car, Dan. How do you feel about what we're getting? My big thing is, yay, it's a car again.
I like that shot specifically. I love that. Like it looks like a bat with the engine on the back. Like that looks so cool with the eyes, and you can kind of see like the shape of the ears and stuff. I'm getting like hardcore Blade vibes from it, and I'm really okay with that.
Oh, interesting.
Like it reminds me of Blade's car, and teenage Dan is giddy inside. Just seeing those pictures. Because it's utilitous. It looks really good. That's not a word. But it has utility.
It's economical.
It looks like a regular car, and that was modified to be like. I like how kind of down and grungy this Batman kind of seems to be, as the motorcycle that has that kind of like bat ears thing that we saw in the like set pictures that came out with the stunt rider driving in the rain and falling down. But I dig the vibe. It looks really nice. The pictures look a little weird. It's because this is the first time we've seen the full bat suit, and he almost seems like photoshopped in a couple of those, like the kind of side view of the car. The second picture, it looks a little weird the way he's integrated.
This one, it looks like he's standing next to it though.
Yes, and I'm sure he is. It's just the way the picture's edited. But is that Robert Pattinson or is that a stunt dude? Because it doesn't look like Robert Pattinson to me for some reason.
I think that one does look like him. I mean, we've seen stunt doubles in a couple other pictures, but I could be wrong. Looking at the suit, the way we see it there, it does look more armored than I was hoping it would be. But I guess we'll see. Yeah,
I kind of dug the vibe where it's like a little bit like the way the shoulders move when he's doing like that little shoulder flex in the screen test that they posted. I like it. It reminds me of the Arkham suit a little bit in that sense, where it's like the plates, but then the plates kind of independently move a little bit when he's moving, as opposed to like the Christian Bale where it's all just like plates, velcroed onto a suit, sort of deal.
I think with a lot of things, I'm expecting it to look great in context, even if even if I don't care for it out of context. But I'm pretty fine with what I'm seeing so far, except just it's a little bit more busy than I was kind of hoping maybe it would be. But I'm also expecting multiple suits because they promised us blue and gray, and we haven't seen that yet. And I will be really surprised if they made that up and if that's not happening. I think we're going to see multiple suits. And I'm also wondering if there's not maybe a lengthy span of time that the movie takes place in, considering the sheer amount of characters and the fact that there probably are... I mean, I figure there will be multiple suits. I think it's possible that it ends up being very year one-ish, and we get Or we take that more literally than it even sounds, and it takes place over a whole year or something. I could see that.
Well, they've been teasing Long Halloween as being a big inspiration, and that takes place over a year, right? That's all the different holidays and stuff. So, I mean, because
no other Batman movie has ever referenced that before.
Yeah, sure. I remember because I had seen. I don't think I had read Long Halloween until after The Dark Knight. So when I read Long Halloween, I was like, oh, this scene is like straight up in The Dark Knight, the scene where it's Gordon and Harvey Dent and Batman on the roof of GCPD, even the "he does that" line. So I was like, oh dang. But I knew going into that it was well, no, actually I must have read it then beforehand because I knew that it was borrowing from that. Either way, yeah, I'm very curious to see where it goes. I think they have a great cast lined up for that movie. Very interested to see something from it, like actual promotional stuff, a trailer or something.
I mean, I'm excited. Whatever it is clearly going to be really different from anything we've had before, and hopefully kind of back to basics. And they've promised detective stuff. It's really hard to look at that look and not think it absolutely must be a detective story. It looks like just that the look of that car and the way they're photographing it and stuff, it looks like it should be like a private eye kind of story.
Yeah,
like
very pulpy and noirish. Yeah. I'm for it. I'm hoping it's good. That's
Dan, I don't know if there's something weird going on my end or if it's your microphone, but you're like really quiet on my end.
Hello. Let's see. Do I need to get closer? Is this better? Should I?
Slightly. I think it must be my end, and I'm not sure what exactly is going on.
Oh no.
Can we take just a real quick break and let me check some settings?
Sure.
Because this has been a little bit awkward for me. I'm just barely hearing you. I'm like enough that I can handle it, but I'm just gonna put up the logo for a second and mute myself, and I'm just gonna check settings. So I'll be back in like 60 seconds. You guys give me just a minute. Sorry about that.
But can you still hear me? You can. Hi, I'm Dan. Welcome to the Danmosphere. I told you I would take over. This was my plan all along. The Dan plan, I call it. I'll probably just keep talking so Cap can hear me also and figure stuff out. How's everybody in the chat doing? I saw Jesse was playing Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight's low-key my favorite of the Arkham games. Look, Arkham City can't be beat, but I like Arkham Knight. Finally, a new Batmobile that isn't a tank, says Noah. Hey, tanks matter, okay? Tanks have feelings too, Noah. Tanks have feelings too. Stream keeps cutting out on your end. I'm sorry, Cinematographic. That's how Batman's car should always look, says Ronimus Prime. Reminds you of Batfleck's first official photo. Yeah, I was getting those vibes too, Kelly O'Rourke, where it's doing the thing. You're good? You got work tomorrow? Nice. That's good. I wonder if they'll call Evo this year. Maybe. I mean, it depends on the timing. Seems like a lot of events are getting canceled as they come around, especially ones recently. Batman Who Laughs versus Hydra Captain America. Oh gosh. I've seen the pictures of the Batman Who Laughs, but again, I'm a horrible fake Batman fan and I have not read anything Batman Who Laughs, so probably should at some point. But again, horrible fake Batman fan. I always feel like I'm not keeping up with all the Batman things when it comes to comics and all that stuff. Hey, I'm back.
You know what we could do, Dan? We could do a show on the Batman Who Laughs, and then when we get to definitive Batman Who Laughs, you go, well, there's the one in the comics. I guess that one's pretty good. But we could do a Batman Who Laughs show, I guess, and introduce you to that character.
Yeah, I feel like
just drive everyone insane.
There you go. I mean, I don't know. I'm down for whatever. And I feel like being friends with you and watching, because I mean, you've shown me the first episode of Batman the Brave and the Bold that I've ever seen. I've never seen that until recently. What you showed me, like the darkest episode, though.
Yeah. So you still haven't sampled what that show was like.
That's true. Yeah.
I can hear you normally now, by the way. It was as simple as my headphones were not plugged in all the way.
Have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again?
That's actually exactly what I did. I went, fine, I'll just unplug it. Oh, that was the problem.
See, like I said, Danmosphere came around.
I always start with the more complicated things too. Like I checked my Skype settings. I was like, maybe it's doing that default thing again. Nope, wasn't that. I was like, oh, I should check the obvious things first. Anyway, well, yeah, you got a bat cat.
I got cats all over my apartment.
You got bat cats? How many cats
do
you have?
Oh, I shouldn't have looked at him. I made eye contact. He's coming over now. I have 3 cats. Don't tell my apartment people.
Oh, you're not supposed to have that many? Or you're not supposed to have any?
You're only supposed to have 2.
Oh, okay.
And we
I thought you were going to say, no, it's a petless apartment. You're not even allowed to have pets. Yeah. We have 3 cats.
We have a big fat cat. He's a big tomcat. We have Fisher. He's my cat. He's named after Sam Fisher, the Splinter Cell.
Oh, okay, cool.
And Yugo. Yugo Strange. No, his name's Yugo. Like where you go, I go. And he's a little rail cat. He's just so skinny. So we have a skinny cat, a medium cat, and a big old cat who's a very happy fat cat. We got cats here in the Dan's cave.
He's got them. He's got the cats.
Bat Cat begins.
Well, let's go ahead and move on now to our review for the evening, Dan. And we'll do definitive Clayface after this because I didn't want to get into that and end up talking about this Clayface. It could come up, so I thought we'd go ahead and just start and just do that segment first, and then we'll do definitive version a little bit later. But yeah, so we watched, like I mentioned earlier, the Batman episodes about Clayface. This is a show that I don't know super well. I've not seen anything like all of a handful of episodes. I've seen maybe 10% of the show at most, and I had no idea how they did Clayface, and got really lucky that I didn't have the big reveal spoiled for me about who Clayface is. I had no idea. I had always, we will spoil it here, so, you know, if you don't want it spoiled, don't watch any more of this, but the character that turns into Clayface is not anybody that has been Clayface before, because this show is all about reimagining Batman characters, and that was a thing I didn't appreciate when I was younger and this show was on. Obviously, I was kind of a animated series purist. I guess I was, looking back on it, I must have been somewhat irritating when it came from my love for that show, like some folks tend to be, you know. I like, for lack of a better term, I guess I must have been like a Batman animated series fanboy. You know, like Nintendo fanboys over Genesis back in the day, where it's like, Sega's great, but they wouldn't admit it because they just love Nintendo so much. And it's like, in my defense, the episodes I had seen, I just didn't think were all that creative and all that well made. But the bigger issue, I think, was I wanted things to be adaptations of the comic stories that I liked. Yeah. And this was not that. This was a reimagining. And I have, over time, come to appreciate a lot of straight-up reimaginings of things that start from scratch. And obviously, I love the Nolan movies, and that's exactly what they're doing with Batman stuff. And they really got me. The first thing that the Batman got me on was the way they handle the ventriloquist, which was just a completely different and crazy take on that. I was like, that's really interesting. And I had no idea how they did Clayface. Their Clayface is kind of genius. He is a detective that has been in that show from the beginning, who's a recurring character, and he ends up getting fired for doing his job, but apparently not effectively enough, and he starts to like lose his sense of identity because he's a cop and he doesn't know what else to be. Kind of a Jim Gordon type in a way. It was like, what am I if I'm not a cop? And at the exact same time, he ends up getting hit with something that turns him into Clayface, and he becomes this villainous character. And what's kind of brilliant about it is you'd never see that coming, because I don't think when I was a kid, ever saw a cartoon show that would go that far with a character like that like you had been seeing in this. Like, I always wondered where that character went, because I had seen a couple later episodes and he was gone. I'm like, what happened to him? And I got really lucky that I didn't get the Clayface thing spoiled for me. But it's kind of disturbing. It's really depressing, especially if you've been following that show. That like this guy who you kind of come to like becomes one of the big Batman villains. It's really cool. It's really neat that they were willing to take that kind of risk.
Yeah, definitely. I had a bit of a different relationship with the show than you did, because when it was on, I was watching the first season. I actually think I got to that second episode where of the two that we watched today. And I want to say, like, outside of that, I maybe caught an episode every now and again, but I kind of stopped watching it regularly just because other things in life. But when I was a teenager, like, I remember watching these episodes when I don't know if it was when they aired, but it was either rerun or around the time when they aired. So I haven't seen these episodes in like 16 years or something like that. Wow, yeah. So it was a real blast from the past to watch these. But yeah, no, I absolutely agree. It's really well done how it works out, and it's like the Joker created him as well. He drove him insane just before this whole incident happened with
to see if he could, because he's just that chaos Joker, just create madness and mayhem.
Yeah. And we watched more than just that. We watched what, 4 episodes? Yeah, we watched 4 episodes. Yeah. We watched the first 2, then we watched Meltdown, and then we watched Clayfaces from season 4.
And I was 2, yeah, and then there's also 1 and 3 where he turns out to be Solomon Grundy, but I didn't look at that one.
Yeah, neither did I. I appreciated the 3rd episode where it's like Joker, like they have this thing. It creates a really cool dichotomy because Bruce was friends with Bennett growing up, and like he was almost to the point where he was like going to reveal his identity to Bennett to help ease Bennett's issues that he's having with, or at the very least to try to get on Bennett's side because he needed a friend within the police force.
He did have his own motives for it too, but he would have. But I mean, he would have been a good friend to do that also. Like it was,
for sure.
It would have been mutually beneficial, but then it actually wouldn't have been for Bruce because if he'd done that, that could have been really bad. But
yeah,
we should talk about that though, because that could have turned out. Who knows how that would have turned out? It could have been really interesting if it had gone the other way.
Yeah. So like they were like brothers, and then Joker refers to himself as Clayface's father
in that 3rd episode,
in the 3rd episode, which is really cool, and it's almost like Clayface is like embracing that almost to that, like he gives him the permission. Like Bruce is trying to get him to become a good guy, Joker's trying to push him over the edge to be a bad guy, and it's such a cool dichotomy going on there.
Well, and I was surprised they went there. We're jumping all over the place, but I was surprised that they suggested the notion of Clayface being a vigilante instead of a villain, because I was thinking before we watched that one, if Bruce had told him he was Batman before that, it could have gone a couple of different ways. He could have still gone nuts and tried to get his revenge on the chief who fired him. For no good reason, his whole zero tolerance thing. This is neither here nor there, but it was really difficult for me not to read that as potentially racist.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was 2004, so I think it was kind of a commentary on a little bit of the... Do you think,
because obviously they never bring that up, but I was like, how come he's not also firing Yin? I could not figure that out. He's
a darn good cop.
Yeah, I guess, but he's all zero tolerance. Like I guess it's just because he was speaking out about Batman and saying that like maybe we should work with Batman and maybe Batman is a good thing. And he's got this whole zero tolerance against anybody in a costume, and he's throwing, like so many cops in stories do, he's throwing Batman in the same mix as all the villains. So like these crazy people running running around on our streets and running our town, we can't have that, and it doesn't matter if it looks like Batman's solving crimes and stuff. I'm lumping him in with them. But it seems like the main reason he gets fired is because he tries to take down the Joker and maybe bring in Batman, and he fails. I mean, like that police chief runs the police department like he's a supervillain, where it's like he's just picking off his men when they fail at things, and she's his partner, and you'd think that they would both get dropped at the same time. Furthermore, I thought it was a really interesting and cool character motive to have Bennett begin, and part of the reason he becomes Clayface is just because the goop turns him crazy, and you got that whole thing, which is a little sticky and a little muddled.
Well, but Joker, just before the goop, he inhaled the goop. Joker had been trying to break him. He had been doing the spinny, swirly thing.
But we'll find out later by the 3rd episode that it's actually a multiple personality thing also.
Yeah, it is a little Two-Facey.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about the Two-Face part of it too. So put a pin in that because I really want to talk about that. But I did think it was kind of a neat idea that the police chief tries to like fires him and gets rid of him because like right after he gets kidnapped and horribly traumatized.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I don't care, he's gone, give me your badge. And like I bought him wanting revenge on that guy and that turning him dark as fast as it did, because that was an insane thing to happen to a person. Like, this is a cartoon show for kids, so obviously it doesn't get like really violent and vulgar on the screen. But imagine, if you will, that what happens to Gordon in The Killing Joke, something like that, happened to a person and then he was fired for it. And what that does to your brain. Like, imagine that's what I was imagining with what happens to Bennett. It's like he gets tortured and traumatized by the Joker, and he gets fired for it and loses all of his identity, and then he gets goop on him that turns him into a creature that can turn into anybody, and that further cements this notion that he doesn't have an identity. That's really good stuff.
A clay-faced creature. I didn't understand why they put out the APB. They're like, a clay-faced creature is attacking police officers. It's like, he's made entirely of clay. Why are you saying...
It's because they're trying to organically give him that name and failing at it. That's what's happening there.
And then they just call him Clayface the rest of the time. So
I thought the Two-Face part of it was kind of brilliant. Basically what we did was we fused those two characters together. We took a totally different character and we gave him part of Harvey Dent's background. Where the main thing is just that he is in law enforcement in some way, and that he is Bruce Wayne's childhood friend. Because very often Harvey Dent and Bruce Wayne are close friends. And I called it really early in the episode, partly because it was 10 minutes in and there wasn't anybody else that could turn into Clayface, but also he goes to dinner with Bruce, and I went, wait a minute, he's friends with Bruce Wayne, he's going to turn into Clayface. And then it occurred to me, maybe they thought it's silly that Batman has two characters in its rogues gallery with the word face in them. So let's make Two-Face and Clayface the same character. And I don't think Two-Face ever shows up in this show.
I have no idea.
If he does, I don't know about it, and I looked it up, and I tried to find a Two-Face in the show, and I couldn't find it. So I don't think anybody more in the know than me, leave a comment and let me know. I don't think there is a Two-Face. I think this character is supposed to be both.
They'd be retreading the same ground if they did, unless they completely changed it.
They'd have to completely change him, which would be an interesting challenge, an interesting thing to see them attempt, because, it's so much Two-Face, but... not so much where I'm finding myself going, why didn't you just make it Two-Face? Like, we're using the powers in a really interesting way. I kind of like the idea of making it in a multiple personality thing, because at least he's not just... Partly because it makes him Two-Face, but also because... and also I kind of buy that psychosis could happen with his situation, but also because... If it's multiple personalities, Bennett is still in there somewhere, and by that third episode, we get to see flashes of Bennett. He's still there, and it's not just he's a crazy person and he's going around doing nutso things. The problem with it is that we're really inconsistent with how the psychology of the two personalities work, especially when you get to the fourth episode, which I like, but I think it's weaker than the other three, and I think by the end of it. We're contriving some things just so that Bennett can finally get a happy ending. I think it's a little easy.
Yeah. It comes out of nowhere, really. And we didn't get the whole Solomon Grundy picture in there, so we don't know. I don't know if they did any work in that episode, because in the final episode, Clayface's, he literally just shows up, stops the Joker, and then turns himself in. He really wants to prove to Bruce that, look, I can be reformed, still stay Clayface, and I want to still be a cop. At one point he said, like, once a cop, always a cop, or something like that. I'm like, I'm not sure about that. You're not a cop anymore, but yeah.
Well, just the mentality of it, though.
I get it.
And also that, like, that was, again, all of his identity. 100% of him was cop, and the idea was supposed to be that, like you never lose that mentality. He continues to think like a cop. I didn't have any issue with that, but the problem was the Clayface personality was completely gone. In that third episode, you had a clear distinction. If he is in Clayface form, if he's using those powers too much, that personality takes over, and he is lost, and that personality wants power and wants to feel important, and
it's very impulsive.
Yeah, exactly. And just kind of does whatever he feels like doing. And when you get to that fourth episode, I don't know why the psychology or the physiology had changed, and they both seemed to have. No longer did we have that idea that, like, the longer he didn't use the powers, the more Bennett he was, and not, like, they seemed to be exactly the same person at that point. And it was like he was trying to convince Bruce of that, and Bruce didn't buy it because it hadn't been that. And then when you get to the end of the episode, he just helps Batman take down the second Clayface, who's a really amusing version of Basil Karlo, who's actually a terrible actor and has no idea what he's doing. He's just going out for commercials, and he's just terrible at it. He needs to find a different job. He needs a day job because he's terrible at it. Yeah. And he just the first Clayface, Bennett, just implores Batman, "Let me help you this one time." I do like the idea that he is. That you think he's not going to take the cure, because he's like, I don't really want to take the cure. I don't know who I am now without being Clayface, and these powers are kind of cool. But then at the end of it, he really was planning on, like, he does want to still be Bennett again, and he seems to care more about his relationship with Bruce Wayne than he does anything. He wants to salvage that friendship more than he wants anything, it seems like, even not knowing that he's Batman. And so I liked that part of it, Dan, but I just thought it was kind of odd that he didn't seem influenced by the Clayface personality at all anymore.
Yeah, well, it seemed like
that was all really easy by the end. He was just like, I'm going to help you take this guy down. And then he took him down. And then he took the cure.
Yeah. I don't know if he immediately wanted the cure right then, because he did slap it out of Bruce's hand, and that was kind of the Clayface personality taking over. But then Robin catches it, and then he comes up with the intertwining thing. And
that's not how I interpreted that, though, by the end. I don't think he hit it out of his hand because of his selfish desire to keep the powers. I think it was because he knew he was the only person that could take down the other Clayface. Because what would have changed his motivation by the end of that fight where he finally takes it? Well, I could be wrong. Maybe it's just that it's the only way I can get out of this, because he was intertwined with him.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that. Maybe that is all it was.
That's how I read it.
Okay, but it still didn't feel like the Clayface personality was there. It still felt like Bennett the whole time to me. Yeah. I don't know.
It was really just kind of in that moment when he batted it out of his hand, and he seemed like he really wanted to keep the thing, but he realized in that moment that it's the only way this is going to end this.
Right. No, I forgot about that part of it. Yeah, I retract what I said. That's true.
No, you're fine. And then I thought it was interesting. It seemed like the show. I like the way the show sets up. Like, okay, we've now ended this storyline with this Clayface, but now we've set up another Clayface to have that as actually evil that can be used throughout the rest of the series, and I think is used for like 4 or 5 more episodes after that or something like that.
Is he? I didn't even look at that. It's funny you say that, because I guess that's cool. I have no desire to see anything with him again, because Bennett is such an interesting character. But yeah. I like that we have a more traditional Clayface that comes in at the end. I like the reason that he's more of the big, chunky, scary Clayface.
Because he's like the mutagen version of...
It's because he took too much of it. He just downed a bunch of it. And so he's like all Clayface. And they don't talk about this, but it would make sense that it affects his personality differently, maybe, because he takes so much of it. Although, I guess, based on that logic, Dan, if you drink a ton of it and you're already kind of an idiot, you're just an idiot.
Yeah, well, he seemed already kind of morally and ethically dubious before that point. I think it
doesn't affect his personality at all.
I don't think it changed him at all. I was surprised at how quick he was able to like instantly know how to do everything. It took a little bit of work on Bennett's end to actually be able to, shift and transform and all that stuff. But it's instantaneous, where he's already turning into the old lady when he's trying to escape. And I was that was too
easy. That's true.
I was expecting it to affect him a bit more, especially after downing that stuff real quick.
Because in the first episode with Bennett, when he got it, he thought he was like melting. He thought he was completely falling apart.
It was horrifying.
Yeah, it was. It was great. And like he's trying to pull himself together, and he thinks he's dying, and then he realizes, I'm just a shapeshifter, and I can just turn into other people. But you're right. Like maybe the other Clayface, Basil Karlo, is more solidified with it, and so he doesn't immediately start falling apart. But I don't buy that he understands how to use it so fast. Maybe the logic is supposed to simply be he knows what Clayface can do with his powers, but that's not enough. Like,
yeah, you would know how to do it immediately, but it's sped up for the sake of telling that story within the short amount of time they have. But
yeah, it ain't perfect. There's some corners that are cut, but overall, I'm surprised that the story is as compelling and sophisticated as it is all the way through all of those. And also, for those of you that haven't watched these, I think they watch really well in succession without anything in between them, because that's how we did it, and I don't know the show very well. The status quo of the show doesn't change enough that it feels like you're missing anything in between. Robin is added and is there by fourth season, but that's it. Like when you get to that episode, okay, we have Robin now.
And but even Clayface isn't caught up on that. So like when Bennett comes in, he's like, "Who's the kid?" Like, that's and it's true. Just like, so it's if you're watching it, it doesn't even need to.
It's like you got an Aizen character, and he's just bringing you along with him. Yeah, I do have questions, Dan. I don't understand how Joker is so completely out of the loop, even when he breaks out of Arkham, that he doesn't know who the new Clayface is.
I don't think. Well, was it clear that to him by that point that it was Bennett that had turned into Clayface?
No, I'm talking about the second Clayface. I'm talking about Karlo.
Oh,
the whole world knows that Basil Karlo is Clayface. Like he's going to restaurants and people are noticing him. Like, oh my God, that's Clayface. That's Clayface. And then when Joker sees him, he doesn't know about that. And I'm like, but you broke out of prison. How have you not seen any news anywhere? Or maybe it was. I could be conflating it. Maybe it was the first Clayface I'm thinking of, but whichever one it was, it's public knowledge and all over the news. And it's weird that he wouldn't have seen the news somewhere.
Yeah. He's too self-centered to even care about other supervillains and all that stuff. Did you catch the Batman 1989 reference? And I think it was that first episode where he's using the goop to.
I feel remiss if I didn't. What was it?
When he's changing that big statue, and he's melting the face and all that stuff. He's wearing like the outfit that Joker's wearing in Batman 1989 when he's messing up the art museum. He's wearing the beret and he's wearing the outfit like that. I didn't
catch that.
Yeah, I'm surprised because I saw that. I was like, ooh, there's a lot of little references. That's the only one that really kind of springs to mind. But there was like a lot of references to other Batman related media in these episodes. My biggest criticism, I would say the dialogue is pretty clunky every now and again, like particularly with that boss character, the chief guy. Like he was, I don't know. It's some of the dialogue was just bad, but
yeah, that's true. I mean, he was ultra two-dimensional and hadn't learned anything by the second season. You know, when when he goes on the witness stand, I'm like, oh, that guy's exactly the same. Like he hasn't grown at all as a person in any way. That's really strange and surprising to me. But no, I got fixated on this notion of what if, and it doesn't watch too convenient to me. The timing, it could have, but I got really fixated on this idea of what if Bruce had told him he was Batman before he turned into Clayface, and what exactly would he have done, and could he have been a superhero after that, or because he has the multiple personality thing, I think partly because that obviously doesn't happen to anybody that ends up Clayfaced, because the second one doesn't do that. So it clearly has something to do with his mental state at the time. And if he thought that Batman had his back, and then because it's his best friend, and that maybe there's this other place for him instead of being a police officer, maybe he could go work with Batman, or he could be in that world. I wonder if he would have developed that personality. I wonder if it would have worked out the same way.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like with a lot of that stuff comes from Joker messing him up beforehand.
See, yeah, you mentioned that. I don't know about that. He seems to be a lot more traumatized by losing his job than he is by anything Joker does to him.
Well, when Yin comes in before the Joker drops the stuff that he inhales, like he's a little cracked.
No, he is in that scene, but when he gets back home after when he's starting to realize that he got all Clayfacified, like he seems to be a lot more upset about the fact that he doesn't have any place to go. He feels alone. And what I'm saying is, if he wasn't alone, if he knew he had that his best friend was Batman, and because remember, Batman is the catalyst for a lot of this. It's not his fault, but he was supposed to bring Batman down, and he was conflicted about that and didn't want to do that. And remember, he acts half-hearted in the moment like he's going to. He pulls a gun on Batman, and he's like, I'm going to take you in. He's like, I don't really want to do that, though. I don't so he's super conflicted about it. But I'm wondering if, you take that catalyst away and you go, well, my best friend is Batman, and I know I know now that the Chief was wrong about Batman, and I don't have to be a cop anymore. I could live in that world. I just wonder if it wouldn't have gone differently.
Yeah, I would have watched the Batman and Clayface show. Where they who needs Robin?
And that's a thing that we've since then done in comics, where we've tried to put Clayface on a superhero team. He's in the Rebirth Detective comics. He's on that team, which was a really strange choice and worked with varying degrees of success. It's not a great book, but it was kind of a neat idea.
Yeah.
And I was just surprised to like such a different take on it when it wasn't the actor thing, that it's still an identity thing, but it's not the actor thing. And then we do the actor thing, we just make a joke out of it.
Yeah, selling dog food.
And yeah, Rodimus Prime, he does eventually reform at the end of the show. And like I said, I think that's handled maybe a little bit too easy. But I also was kind of glad that it went there because, like, I don't know, it's I like him being such a tragic character, but I also felt like, there's a good guy in there who I don't want to see like that forever. Like, more than I ever had with Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
And was kind of glad that he ultimately, actually kind of gets redemption by the end. But I also like that it's not until the 4th season. I like that it takes that long.
Yeah, it took a good long while on the show's run. I like the animation. Some of the that fight scene, or the scene in the Hall of Mirrors where him and Joker are fighting, and they're kind of just going through the different angles of the mirrors, and there's like this kind of pan shot, and then it ends with them actually walking in different. Like, there's a lot of cool little details in there that was just very impressive to me for a show of that time.
Yeah, it looks really good, and I used to always be kind of weirded out by the character models in the show. I just don't love the look of it, but I've got
weird shapes.
Yeah, and it looks like I've said before, like, obviously it's some of the same people that did Jackie Chan Adventures, and their Bruce Wayne looks exactly like Jackie Chan, and that was always weird. And it looks, the flavor of it is very much like Men in Black the series. It's just not what I ever really wanted for Batman, but I've totally adjusted to it, and like. I always thought it looked lazy, but it isn't that. Like, it's just weird character models that I don't initially care for. But the actual animation is really sharp and really fluid and really well done. And I get why a lot of people at the time were saying, well, I like this show better than the animated series because the action is better. Like, I get why people were saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, the Joker for this show was kind of off-putting to me when I was younger. I was like, I'm not so into it. Like, watching it today I thought it was really good. I thought the Joker was really great, really well acted, and really well portrayed.
Yeah, and he's unconventionally funny.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it was always a really odd, interesting take on that. He's not even laugh out loud funny. In some ways, he's almost like a more cerebral Joker than a Batman, at least a Batman cartoon had tried before, where, like, he's punny, but, like, you gotta know stuff to get some of the jokes that he makes, and I don't know, like, it's a really specific sense of humor, and I think you almost have to be... You have to be of particular sensibilities to even find it funny. And then what's kind of nice is, and I guess a lot of Jokers have this, but maybe this one more than any of them, he doesn't care if anybody is paying any attention to him. He's just making himself laugh.
Yeah.
I know the Joker always has that, but this one especially, like, no one's in the room. He's cracking all these jokes. No one's there.
He knows the audience is there. He knows. He can see beyond the fourth wall.
It's like really subtle fourth wall breaking, but only from his perspective.
Yeah, he's insane. He always thinks there's an audience watching. He doesn't know we're watching, but he thinks an audience is watching. I like his two henchmen, the June and Punch or whatever their names were.
Yeah, and it's
Judy.
Weird when they suddenly start talking and they sound like college educated, like really book read. And I'm like, what is going on here?
So that was in season 4. I was wondering. I was like, oh, did they give them voices? And then Joker says, wait, when did you two start talking? Yeah, I was like, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
I thought maybe
really
for a moment.
I assumed they were different people that he had just put in those suits. He just found other,
and just calls everybody the same
big
people.
giant people to put in those suits. Yeah. Yeah, that was funny. I like that this Joker does so much stuff with gadgets, and that he is a cartoon character that's in a more serious show than what he thinks he's in. And somehow the juxtaposition of that makes some of the things he does weirdly disturbing. Like, the way he messes with Bennett's mind is certainly kind of messed up, and he's creepy in places. But at the same time, he gets the rubber stuff and he's literally bouncing down the street.
He gets in the van.
That's what it is. The van is bouncing.
The van is bouncing. Because that was the first thing that happened. And I was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to be as good as I remembered it being.
Yeah, same here, and it totally works.
Yeah, it was so goofy. It was so cartoony. Yeah.
And then in that last episode, he's got, or maybe this is the third one, I forget. He shows up in all of these, by the way.
He's tied in with the Clayface character, so.
Yeah, but like Clayface never shows up unless he's there. Maybe that episode where he's Solomon Grundy, he does. But but he's got those stilts that he wears that whole episode.
Yeah.
Which is also super cartoony. Where like they can just be as tall as the show needs them to be, and yeah,
that's pretty great. He's like Inspector Gadget, but Joker. Well, I liked the whole, because that was when they were kind of playing with the Batman and Clayface might work together sort of deal, and Clayface like clays the stilts, and then Batman throws the thing to break the stilts, and then Joker's just standing there like sideways, stuck in the two different levels of stilt. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Anything else you want to make sure that you say about these? This is, by the way, I should say, unprecedented. This is kind of history making for us that we picked something this time that I've never seen that you have seen.
Yeah, for once, finally. Yeah, well, I'm glad I didn't spoil it for you, because I think when we talked about this months ago about doing these episodes, I was like, yeah, isn't like Batman's friend the guy who becomes Clayface? I said that to you, so I'm glad you didn't stick it in your brain.
I'm glad I missed it, yeah.
He doesn't listen to me half the time, chat.
No, that's not what it is.
I'm joking.
I haven't seen enough of that show where I would have even known that cop was Bruce Wayne's friend.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know who you're talking about, probably.
I gotcha.
Or at least that's what I'm standing by. I'm going to say that's what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked that show around when it was on. I just wasn't into it enough to keep up with it, and I don't know. Life was taking over. I think I ended up moving that summer, so in general, I think I just fell off watching it. Kids WB. That might have been the CW by that point, actually. I don't know. It was probably still Kids WB.
No, it would have been CW by that point.
Would it have been?
Yeah, it would have. Because I want to say, yeah, because that show starts in like 2004.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely was by that point. Smallville's in its third season at that point.
Oh, man. Smallville.
Which is wild. But yeah, I think it switches over in 2003. Because Birds of Prey is on in 2002 when it's still the WB, and I think right after that is when it changes. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Yeah.
Or is it not until 2005? No, because Enterprise doesn't end until 2005, and I'm pretty sure Enterprise rode out UPN's run. I think UPN begins and ends with Star Trek.
2006, so it still was WB.
Yeah, so it was WB for the first couple seasons, but its last couple seasons it would have been CW.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. Okay, well,
so it still was WB when I was watching, but either way.
Okay, but I figured it out with my brain and didn't have to look it up.
Yeah, well, I'm bad with time.
Yeah.
Survivor started in 2000, right?
Yeah, that's true.
The birth of reality television and the destruction of pop culture as we know it.
I remember being in school talking to somebody about that show when it was announced and being confused that it wasn't against the law to put people on an island and see if they don't die. I remember having that conversation. Where just with that title and that premise, I assumed it was like, no, some people aren't coming back alive. They're not going to make it. They're going to die.
They don't have insurance on the production. They don't have a medical team anywhere. They don't give them food. Like
I thought that we were already in a dystopian future and that show was the Running Man. That's what I thought was going on.
I mean, it was the beginning of that for sure. Yeah.
Unshelled Pity says the only villain I feel like the Batman did better was Killer Croc. I've not seen their Croc, or I don't remember it if I have, so I'd have to go back and look. But I do think their Clayface is really good. We will use this as a segue now into definitive version, and I will say I don't know if it's better than a couple of other Clayfaces, but I think it's right on par. Like, suddenly definitive version is a lot harder on this one than I would have expected, because I was all set to say Arkham.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, it's between a couple. Like, I love the look and the voice and everything, obviously, for Matt Hagen in animated series. Like, that was my first Clayface, and I think a lot of people, especially my age, didn't know Clayface until that, because he hadn't been adapted in anything really. In the 60s show, you had Falseface, but that was a different character. I don't think you had a Clayface until then. And the way he transforms, and especially the end of that first episode, it was a two-parter where he can't control his transformation. He turns into so many different things. Some of the best animation in that show, and that always stuck with me. And also, like, the mace hand, with the spikes, which this finally does, or excuse me, the Batman finally did in the third or fourth episode. It brought out the mace hand, but it hadn't done it before. That's what I was remembered about Clayface. So, like, my interest in that character was always visual. It was always really superficial. This was the first time that I really liked him as a character, except for in Arkham, where there's And like character-wise, maybe less than thematically. I just like what we're doing with identity and acting and masks and stuff with Clayface, particularly in Arkham City. So I'm conflicted now. It's kind of between maybe Arkham City and the Batman right now for me. But where are you sitting?
I mean, even after like watching this, I get what you mean exactly. Where it's like it's kind of tough to discount this, because the Batman, it actually does it very well, especially with the entire arc. I don't know. I don't feel like there's enough of Clayface in Arkham City to really kind of sink your teeth into too much.
You're
like,
right.
Because when you say Arkham, I'm like, he's kind of there at the very. I mean, he's there more than you think he is because he's playing the Joker. But spoilers. And I would have I have to stick with Ron Perlman, Matt Hagen. Yeah, it's just like I felt the whole range. Like as a character, I really felt for him. Like I felt like horror when he has that transformation at the end of that and he can't control it, and he's just like, there's that body horror element that we kind of get a little bit of in the Batman. Yeah. There is the sad, lonely guy who can't find his place in the world now because of the place that he's in. You get the horror of just Clayface in general. Like the idea when I was a kid seeing that show, it always really stuck with me. I was always really kind of scared of Clayface. Yeah. For as much of a tragic character he was, the idea of him smothering people with himself, or you get trapped inside of him, or he's just like this scary monster guy. Like,
that's true. He's terrifying in animated series in a way he's not been in other places.
Yeah. And at points he just wants to be left alone. He just wants to exist and try, like that episode where he's trying to like seal himself in that encased thing, and he's trying to become like a man and just find some sort of semblance of life and peace. Yeah. And even then he still can't get it. It's for me, that's the most fleshed out kind of pun that character has really gotten. And I've always wanted to see him in live action. That was my biggest thing, was like it could be a little weird and potentially cartoony. I think they did a pretty good job with Sandman in the Raimi Spider-Man movie. Like, he's not the problem with that movie. That movie just has a bunch of other problems it has going on. So it definitely could, something like that could be done in live action, I feel. And I've been really hoping that one of these movies takes a stab at him, because I think that character can be done really well. We've seen a couple different really good versions of him recently, like, with the Batman and with the animated series back in the day. But I feel like he was more of a plot device in Arkham more than anything else.
That's true. I guess that's fair. I guess maybe I shouldn't say that. The deal with Hagen, and I just need to go back to that show, is the last time I watched his introduction, it did not hold up the way I thought it would. It's actually not great. But I don't remember his follow-ups anymore, really. So, like, I have I have dismissed the character in that show to some degree because it's been a while since I've looked at it, and when I went back to that two-parter, it wasn't great. The animation's amazing, and the initial setup is interesting. The whole washed down actor and the what's the word I'm looking for? Just the idea of a guy who is again not sure who he is anymore and can't, like, the idea that you would have the power to look like anything but you still can't get back to your glory days is like really sad. Yeah. But the execution wasn't great, and I was surprised by that. But now it's been a couple of years since I did that too, so yeah,
I would definitely say check out the follow-ups. I can't remember. Yeah,
it's just been too long.
Yeah, it's been a while. Because he has this love interest that he's just trying to get her back and find solace from that.
I still don't think he's any more fleshed out than the Batman version, though. I think even those are on par at this point. I really do.
I would say the Batman's probably
I think he is at least as compelling of a character, but you could argue that he is as good or a better Two-Face than he is a Clayface. So there's also that. True. You could say he's a decent Two-Face. Is he as good of a Clayface as he is a Two-Face?
Yeah, somebody in the chat earlier had mentioned that it was a rights thing with the Nolan Batman using Two-Face and Scarecrow and DC with their stupid TV whatever cross-platform stuff that they do. Yeah.
So they just made Clayface Two-Face.
Apparently.
Well, art from adversity, man. I mean, it worked.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He's a feat of clay. Indeedly do.
Wouldn't it have been really funny if they also got fear toxin in there somewhere just to get really crazy with it, where they're like, okay, fine, if we can't have that, I'm gonna have a Clayface that is also Scarecrow and Two-Face simultaneously. Let's also make him Ra's al Ghul somehow. Let's have him run the League of Assassins with his fear toxin while he's got identity issues and can't decide who he is and can turn into different people. And he used to be Bruce Wayne's childhood friend and has multiple personalities.
So he's a little Hush, and he's trying to be Bruce.
He's also Hush!
That'd be amazing. It would work. It would absolutely work because he's just trying to be Bruce.
He gets all clayed, right? And he doesn't know how to use his clay powers, and he wants to go out in public, so he wraps himself up in a mummy wrap, and now he's also Hush. Yeah.
It works out.
He's everything. He's
Blue
all
Dragon
the
5
villains.
said so far he's the feat of every character. So far, 2 stabs at Clayface in live action with Birds of Prey and Gotham. Neither perfect, but getting there. I haven't seen either of those, so I don't really. Birds of Prey. What was Clayface on Birds of Prey, Cap?
Clayface was in like the second to last episode, I think. He was one of the only regular Batman villains that even showed up in that show, and they played him like a Hannibal Lecter type, where he was in prison and Helena had to come to him for information about something. I can't remember now.
About plot in episode.
I think their Clayface was like a major mob boss, and he worked with the cop's father. And she was trying to get information about Reese's dad. I think that's what it was. But it's been, if I'm getting that right, I'm proud of myself, because it's probably been 12 years since I watched that.
Yeah, good old Birds of Prey.
Oh, he's the one who murdered Catwoman. That's what it was. That's what it was.
Wow.
He killed Selena Kyle. That's what it was.
Okay, so they were probably trying to tie him in as like a big bad for the series, in a way, like probably returning if they had done more than one season.
Dan, is that your sister in the comments?
That is my sister-in-law and my brother.
Oh, cool.
Now's not the time for panic. Tom's quoting Bane because he loves Bane.
Hi, Dan's family. I'm Cap Morgan. Thanks for watching our show.
It's my brother and his wife. Hello, hello. I think I saw a text from them earlier. I would say we'd be remiss to not mention the Harley Quinn animated series, Clayface.
Well, we mentioned that earlier. I mean, I wouldn't put that in my list, but he's hilarious.
I want to talk about him because one, voiced by Alan Tudyk, who does a couple different voices. He also voices the Joker in Harley Quinn. He is just such a funny character. The episode where he gets separated from his hand and his hand becomes like a separate being with a different consciousness, like, and he becomes Gordon's friend, like Gordon's best friend, and helps out Gordon with his marriage issues and his whatever.
That's true. I mean, obviously it's tongue in cheek and silly, but they do some interesting identity stuff with him in that too.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of a multiple personality thing. And he doesn't like, in that, the hand doesn't want to go back at the end. Like, he wants to maintain being himself. Like, that, it's so creative the way they portray him. And yeah, again, you haven't finished off the series, but there's a really great moment that I can't wait to talk to you about in the final episode that just makes me laugh so hard.
Yeah, that's like the old school, like stage drama queen version.
Oh, I'm Clayface. Like, he's just like, I'm an actor. Like, that's what he's doing all the time, and he can't resist any chance to ham it up in any way he can. He always comes up with like these characters, and he has to have a backstory, and it's just so good.
And he's got the same thing that King Shark does, where he's a little innocent.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it seems like he's just a villain because nobody will let him be anything else. You know, like,
yeah, that's true.
Like he's like, when he becomes one of Harley Quinn's henchmen, it's like he's going out for a role, and he's like, this is the only part I can get right now. I mean, that's what it feels like.
He's so eager to please, like any good actor, and he'll take whoever gives him attention and that thing, and it's only bad guys apparently who are giving him the time of day. I mean, plus he's a giant clay monster, so he's misunderstood by, regular people. Kite Man, hell yeah.
No, I'm glad you brought that up again, because he's very funny.
Yeah, like it'd be tough for me to ever say he's my definitive Clayface, right, because he's such a joke version of that character, but it's such a different take on that character that it's actually like it's its own thing. And I would make
the argument that there are characters in that show that aren't, I mean, everybody's comedic obviously in that show to some degree, but there are characters that don't feel like parodies of themselves. So that Clayface is a parody of the Basil Karlo Clayface, and Bane is obviously a parody of Tom Hardy Bane, but like Poison Ivy, not a parody really.
No, yeah, she's like, straight the character.
I could see somebody, and I mean, like, it's a different take on that, and like me and other people have said before, it's like if Daria was Poison Ivy, but like I could see somebody calling her their definitive Poison Ivy before I could see somebody calling that their definitive Clayface. Yeah. I guess is the point I'm trying to make.
It's Poison Ivy with a bit of humanity injected in her. Like, that's one of the reasons why I like her so much. Because I feel like Poison Ivy, for a lot of the things that I've seen,
she's one-dimensional. I
was about to say, she's very one-note, like, in general. And so she's given something.
She's just a terrorist.
Yeah, yeah, an eco-terrorist. Well, no, the opposite, whatever an eco-terrorist would be. But yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. There's a few characters on there. Like, I even feel like Harley Quinn sometimes. I mean, for as much as they make a joke of a lot of things, they actually hit some real emotional moments in that show.
They're going to get me to a place where I'm probably going to end up calling her my definitive Harley Quinn. I think that's going to happen.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
We'll have to do a second Harley Quinn show so we can change our minds about that.
Yeah. No. Well, yeah, did I think I did say. Well, I know it was so early on in the
I don't think either of us was prepared to make that statement yet. I think we were like, she's really good, but it's just a dumb cartoon right now, and I don't know. But yeah. I mean, we didn't say that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, animated series didn't do what this show's doing, and obviously the show is focused on her as much as it is an ensemble. But like, they're really like deconstructing every aspect of Harley Quinn on this show. So. Yeah, no,
and they're taking advantage of how. Now we're talking about Harley Quinn again, but this was the last show. But
you're welcome.
But yeah, they're deconstructing that character and mining all of the really ambiguous stuff that has always been not understood or known about that character. Where like it's very much like everybody else in that show their own. It's almost like they took this character that's really popular more for her look and just general ideas than anything else, and went, oh, wait, she's kind of a blank slate. We can do anything we want to with her. And then they used that to reinvent everybody else around her.
A clean slate. Sorry. I heard blank slate, and my brain goes to it immediately.
Why don't we go ahead and move on now to our final segment of the evening and do some Bat Chat. We're going to talk a little bit more about Clayface in this segment, and then why don't you guys, if you'd like, while you're watching live, leave any Batman questions that you want to, and we will tackle a few of those before we bid you farewell and good evening, and we go back to our lives that have nothing at the moment to do with leaving our homes. Dan, you touched on this earlier when you were talking about how you would like to see a live-action Clayface. I want to take that in a movie. I want to take that further and talk about how you'd even want to see that character attempted and realized. Not just in what the effects would look like, how to even make it look good, but, like, story-wise, in a live-action Batman thing, where would you go? Which version would you most want to see adapted?
Oh, gosh. I mean...
Would you want to do the actor thing? Would you want to see it completely reinvented yet again? Like how would you? What do you see for a live action thing? And I guess it somewhat depends on what Batman you're doing, obviously. But
yeah, I mean, the easiest thing would be to do the actor thing, to do the Basil Karlo thing, just because there's a lot to mine there. But I mean, hey, like I'd be totally down for a reinvention. I don't know what that reinvention would be, but. Yeah, I think the Basil Karlo thing, I think, would definitely make sense. I mean, for Matt Hagen, he was an actor, but was there any reference to Basil Karlo at all? Or they just took Basil Karlo's background and gave it to Matt Hagen? Or
unless
called
Matt
him a different
Hagen
character?
in the comics was also an actor, because I honestly don't know comic Clayface very well at all.
Yeah.
I've read very few straight-up Clayface stories. I've read stories with Clayface in them, but I haven't read a lot of straight-up Clayface story, so this is not a character I know super well, and this will happen on this show. We're not experts or anything, but Clayface, which is part of the point of doing reviews on this show, is to familiarize ourselves more with some characters that we maybe don't even know that well. I do know that Clayface is a generational, or not generational, but like passes the torch a lot. There's a lot of different Clayfaces, and the Batman was well aware of that, which is why they did the second Clayface, which I thought was really neat that they did another one, because he has that background in comics where there's traditionally three Clayfaces, and then later there's like a lady Clayface, and I'm sure at this point there's even more Clayfaces, and that the Batman like made up a brand new one and then brought in Basil Karlo. When I was a kid, Matt Hagen was the only one I knew about. I wasn't aware of Basil Karlo until I was reading comics in the 2000s.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like the most interesting way in for that is definitely the actor side of it, because then you have somebody who is familiar. Like it lends credence to the idea that they can easily change and take over this character and pretend to be other people. Because you would think a regular person, or Bennett kind of stretches a little bit. He just uses it for kind of like people he knows. He's imitating Yin. At one point, and maybe I think his boss at some point, and at a different point he's Batman very briefly. Like he's not trying to constantly intimidate people. He's not like a master actor trying to get one over on people for the sake of robbing someplace or with some master scheme that he's doing. So I think the actor side of it makes more sense for a character that is embodying other people and trying to pretend to be other people. That would make sense.
I do too. As much as I like the Hagen thing from the animated series, the horror of I can't have the life I used to, regardless of this amazing power, where I kind of ought to be able to do that, but I'm falling apart. I can't do that. It might be neat to see a reinvention, and this would be. And the reason I'm thinking about this for a movie is because you wouldn't have to do the effect all that much until your inevitable like big third act fight or something. But I think it would be neat to finally see a Clayface that actually is using it as an actor in the first place. That like when we meet him, he's already Clayface. And he is using that ability to be the actor that he is. And maybe he's transformed himself into something that doesn't look anything like the original character did, like whoever he was. And maybe he actually is like a big, grotesque, amorphous blob thing, but nobody's ever seen him that way. And we treat him like we did Mystique in the X-Men movies, where we keep seeing him as different people, but we don't realize that it's him. And maybe you don't even know Clayface is in the movie until the third act, when he's, like, uncovered. And you have maybe several characters in the movie that all turn out to be the same guy. And you didn't even know Clayface was there. And that could be really, really cool.
Yeah, you'd have to have a secondary villain, obviously, but
yeah, and it would be very
cool.
difficult to keep that under wraps and nobody would know about it. But we did it with Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins. I realize the internet in 05 is not the internet in 2020, but still.
Oh man, yeah, Henry Ducard, my favorite Liam Neeson character.
But you know, they managed with Far From Home to keep the villain thing under wraps decently well in that too. I mean, I'm not saying it was the same sort of thing, but like,
yeah,
I didn't know for sure what was happening with
I hear you.
What's his face, Fishbowl Head.
Fishbowl Head, yeah, Mysterio, yeah. For that, I was like going into it, I was like, all right, I'm 80% sure he's probably going to be the main villain. But at the same time, you don't know the way they marketed it and the way they had sold it all.
And it didn't even matter that I was pretty sure of that. Like, in the theater, it made me question it enough that reveal totally ends up working. And I liked getting to be duped by that. And it's interesting. These are characters I didn't think to compare before, but Clayface and Mysterio have a lot in common.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
And we could break those things down, but we're not going to. Let's go ahead.
I refuse.
And look at some questions, unless you had anything else you wanted to say about live-action movie Clayface.
I want to see it.
I do think that you run the risk of having obviously badly integrated CG, but that's a risk you got to take with a big blob amorphous character like that.
At this point, though, like I think we're there. Done. I think we're there. Yeah. If you have a really crappy director.
If you have a really crappy special effects team.
Yeah.
John Ty, $2 super chat. Thanks, man. This is a classic question I've gotten several times in my YouTube career. Would you rather live in Gotham or Metropolis?
Who would choose Gotham?
Me, for the atmosphere, Dan.
The Batmosphere.
The Batmosphere. No, obviously, practically... Yeah, the only way I could see myself saying Gotham is if I lived alone and was so, like, not afraid of what might happen to my person just because I wanted the atmosphere of living in that city. That would be the only way. I wouldn't move my family there for sure.
I want the chance to see Batman jumping across rooftops, okay? That's why I'm living in Gotham. Maybe.
I think it would be a bigger deal to see a man fly, though. Like, even if you loved Batman, it would still be a bigger deal to see someone defy gravity, I would think.
I mean, look, rent is probably sky high in Metropolis. I'm not going to lie. Gotham's definitely more affordable. How about
That's
I'll
also
say
not even necessarily true, right? Like,
yeah, that's true. I'll live in Gotham to save up some money to buy an apartment in Metropolis, and I'll just hop between the two whenever it's convenient. How about that? Or flying on rooftops. Yes, he is flying on rooftops.
I don't know, like I have a broody side of my personality. Sure, I think a lot of us do, but at the end of the day, I like sunlight. And living in a city that never has that, I don't know.
It's just constant smog and explosions every 5 seconds. Not that Metropolis has its crime rates under control either. I mean, I think Metropolis has a bigger supervillain problem with like
That's right.
master plans going on. I mean, not that Gotham doesn't, but it's all low time. Joker has stole a truck of dynamite and might blow up a gala or something like that. But if you're hanging out in the outside of the fear toxin being released everywhere every other week, it's probably, if anything, maybe that's a thing. People live in Gotham just to potentially get fear toxins. It's free. It's a free escape.
Man, I wonder if that story's been told, like addictive fear toxin, where it becomes like cocaine or meth or something.
Guy's like, oh no, look, it's the Scarecrow. Maybe throw some fear toxin my way. I don't know.
I'm addicted to being afraid of the thing I'm most afraid of all the time. God, I hate would that be the way to get over your fears, where you're so addicted, you're an arachnophobe, you're so addicted to seeing spiders they don't even bother you anymore?
That's literally Batman's thing.
It's true. I just described Batman if he was Spider-Man.
I guess. That's pretty great. My fiance makes fun of Batman all the time, and she goes, well, the thing that she'll say to really kind of just reductionist make fun of Batman is he's afraid of bats. And I'm like, no, he's not afraid of bats. He was afraid of bats when he was a kid, and he made it his symbol, and then he got over his fear by making it his symbol, and he turns his fear onto the criminals that he's hunting at night. So
okay.
stop saying that.
Can I give a rebuttal and throw a bone to her for just a second, though?
Sure.
Nolan Batman, still a little afraid of bats.
Yeah, probably.
All the way through. All the way through. Still a little afraid of bats.
He didn't seem freaked out when he was going down that staircase with the supersonic thing.
That's because he was running with Gordon, and he didn't want Gordon to see him being scared of bats.
Oh, yeah.
He's just really good. He's in the zone, man. That's why he talks like this all the time, because he's like in the zone, and he's like doing his Batman thing. But no, he's still. But you see how laser focused he was in that scene? He was trying not to think about the bats. That's what it was.
Yeah, he's like, oh, the bats are coming. The bats are coming. The bats are coming.
Present tense when he I know he hasn't entirely fully become Batman yet, but even as he's putting the suit together, he says present tense to Alfred, bats terrify me. Not that they did, they still do. And I don't see any moment in that film where suddenly they don't anymore. Moreover, when he's in the suit, and I don't know this movie very well, when he's in the suit and he's been Batman for a few scenes already, and Scarecrow puts the Scarecrow toxin on him, what does he see coming out of Scarecrow's mouth but a bat? No, he's still afraid of bats. Absolutely he is.
Bats, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. I gotta get me one of those.
Take that, Batman. Daniel Davis and several other people say that Matt Hagen was originally a treasure hunter in the comics. I didn't know that. Or if I did, I had forgotten about it. Okay, let's answer some other questions if there's some other questions here. Let's see here. Ronimus Prime 77, would you guys ever do a Batmosphere episode about Firefly, just like you're doing now with Clayface? Firefly's not a character I know very well, and I've never liked him in much, but would be opposed to it. I feel like if we put that in a
episode 25 will be the Firefly episode.
Oh, say that 25 sounds like a milestone. Don't do Firefly for 25.
Okay,
be like
fine.
23 or
episode
27.
24.
You know?
Yeah. Like it's once we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel for a character to do the spotlight on, and we're not just doing characters. We're doing, we've already done. Did we do Batmobile? We did Batmobile.
I feel like no.
Oh, we did Alfred.
We did definitive Batmobile, but we didn't do a show that had just Batmobile in the title. I don't know if we'll do one that's not just a straight up character spotlight. Like just for what we label the show, because I don't know what other things really make a lot of sense to do that with, unless we did a spotlight on a particular show or something, which we could do, but then we wouldn't have the definitive version in there.
Gotcha.
But you say 25, like there's a lot of well-known Batman characters, even if you were just doing characters. I feel like we're not bottom of the barrel by the time we get there, especially because we started right away with Alfred and then we did Batwoman. Like,
yeah, that's true. And I didn't know anything about Batwoman. So. Yeah, and I still don't. I saw.
You should read the Rucka stuff. It's really good.
The who now?
The Greg Rucka Batwoman stuff. That the Batwoman that's on TV is based on his stuff, and that's his detective run from 07, 08, whenever he wrote that.
I gotcha. I saw that Sam I Am said, have you heard of Johnny Depp possibly playing the Joker and Matt Reeves as the Batman? What are your thoughts? Well, like not this one, but there are rumblings that he may come around, or they're interested in having him be the Joker for the Pattinson Batmans.
There's no way the Joker shows up in that movie.
No, not this one. They're just saying in general they're interested in having him for future installments.
I'm just saying if he said in the Batman, I'll be real surprised if the Joker's in that, unless he's just unless he just shows up at the end or there's a cameo or something. If
they effing Fantastic Beasts it,
I don't like that choice immediately. I'm not saying he couldn't be great. It's just not immediately what I want. I can easily be won over by that. It just seems like the obvious choice to me. Or at least
right there with you.
Or at least it was at one time. I also wouldn't think that you would want Depp to Pattinson's Batman because now you have a Joker who's at least 20 years older than him. I wouldn't think you'd want that.
Yeah.
How long can he even play that role? Or would you want him to play that role? I don't know. I mean, Johnny Depp's been around. I mean, Johnny Depp's not a young guy anymore. I think it's easy to think of that guy as an ageless Tom Cruise type, but he's been, not that he's like Tom Cruise, I just mean these look like actors that have not aged really. And I don't think, but he has, you know what I mean? And like, I don't know, I just don't know if you want like having a 50, 60-year-old Joker in you know, your BVS continuity makes perfect sense, because that's how old your Batman is, or at least he's in his 40s. But not when your Batman's 30 and just getting started.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. I that was my first thought too when I was seeing the articles about that. I'm like, he's just a little old. Not that like he couldn't do it. He could do a great job, I'm sure, but it's just.
But also, it's the obvious choice. I would want to see something unconventional, and it sounds like, I'm not saying this is the performance he would give, but in my mind, it's too close to the Suicide Squad version.
Yeah.
What's his face?
Yeah.
Like
Jared Leto.
I don't know. That just feels like too much like a Leto pick to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what he would do with it, so maybe not. But
and who knows what Leto did with his version?
Yeah. We will never know.
We will never know. Ronimus Prime said, "Why does no one give Firefly any love? Because he's generally portrayed very one-dimensionally in everything I've seen."
You send me that great Firefly story, and I will immediately give him a Batmosphere. But I don't know that such a thing exists.
27 episodes in.
If it does. Yeah. No, I shouldn't.
Episode 27 is the Firefly episode. We're already marking it. It's happening. If it isn't, I'm gonna be sad.
It's gonna be in it's gonna be in season 3 of Batmosphere.
Yeah, it's gonna be 2022 by the time we get around to it.
Because we only do this once a month, and we missed last month, so like the most you'll ever get in a year is 12. So
look, we're all gonna be under the Corona Dome. It's all, you know. Somebody, maybe there will be a good Firefly story by that point. Well,
maybe so, yeah. Or maybe, I mean, there'll be just, you know, so little left to do. We'll be resorting to reading Firefly because we've read everything else.
I'm in Corona Dome 5. You're in Corona Dome 2024 out in Kansas. It's, you know, it's gonna be life.
People are writing down other things that we could do, like Batcave and Bat Signal, but like, I wouldn't do a whole show on that.
We already did Definitive Batcave.
Yeah, and we did that too. Yeah, but to do like, I guess we did Batcave. Now, I will say we could do a whole show on cars.
Oh yeah,
that would be easy. And I think maybe we should plan a Batmobile show and do not just definitive, but
before?
I don't think because we've done definitive character for everything but Batwoman, because that was the one we couldn't do definitive version because she'd only been in a couple things outside of comics.
Yeah.
No, why don't we do that at some point, though? We should do a Batmobile show and pick something where just the car is heavily featured. Do something where either the Penguin steals the Batmobile, or, you know, where the Batmobile is just heavily featured. I think that's a good idea.
I'm down.
Maybe we should, I don't know, maybe we should do that next show, since we've only done characters so far. I was going to open it up and ask you guys if you wanted to give us suggestions for what featured character or featured topic we should do next time. But my vote right away, Dan, is going out for Batmobile show. I think that could be really cool.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm down for it.
But
I have that.
Go ahead.
I would. No. I have that, and I'm almost certain you have it as well. That Batmobile book. I think I have 2 copies of that book. The one that has like the breakdown of all the Batmobiles. It's like that kind of big, long book.
I don't think I have that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have an extra copy. Maybe I'll send it to you if I ever send you my capture card.
Yeah, we need to talk about that at some point. I could use that. But yeah, I don't think I have that. I have the Batmobile book. I have the Tumblr book. There's a big. Or is that the same thing?
It might be the same thing. I think it has the Tumblr on the cover.
I thought the one I had was just about the Nolan car, but maybe it is different cars. I need to look at it. I haven't thumbed through that in a long time. Okay. Yeah. Maybe I do have the same thing you're talking about.
If we're talking about that, then I'm probably going to read through that for information. I was watching a video recently where they were talking about the Futura car.
These are all good ideas. Blue Dragon 5 wants us to do a Gordon show. We should do a Gordon show at some point.
Absolutely, yeah.
Certainly. Noah O, do Egghead. That'd be fun. Be fun. I like that, John Ty. Do one on alternate versions of Batman. And then you have to pick your definitive alternate version.
What just a Batman version?
I would say a Batman that is not Bruce Wayne or is like an Elseworlds Bruce Wayne. You know, that kind of thing?
You could do like
Thomas Wayne.
Jean Valjean or whatever his name is.
Jean-Paul Valley, yeah.
Yeah.
You could. We should do a little bit of Nightfall at some point on this show.
Yeah, I still haven't read it, so if that can be something where we do that at some point, because I have it. It's literally
Nightfall
sitting right
massive.
Over there.
If we did a whole Nightfall show, that's
it's real thick. Yeah,
that's all we would do. It would just be like 2 hours of Nightfall talk, and we wouldn't even do segments that night because there's so much to do on Nightfall.
Yeah, Nightfall and No Man's Land. Those are two that I have not really dug into, and I know you've talked No Man's Land up a whole bunch.
Those are the basis of my Batman fandom. In comics anyway, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we'll, I don't know, this could change. We always do this on the show where we do like a meeting on camera about what we're going to do next time. But
that's the flavor of this show.
It is
just off the cuffness.
We're making it up as we go along, and I think it works out.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I agree.
I think for now we should tentatively plan for Batmobile, and then if anybody has cool ideas for what the review for the Batmobile show should be, let me know, because there's a lot of different things we could do for that, and I don't immediately have a brilliant notion, but like we can go all kinds of places with that. But I would want it to be something where the car itself features really heavily into the story.
Yeah. Indeed. When you said I don't know where we could go, what places we can go, I was thinking in the Batmobile.
You got a car. I think there are many places you can go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. As long as you got it gassed up.
With the turbojet fuel that powers the afterburner behind the Batmobile. I'm trailing off real quick. I'm dying. Cap, save me.
Once you get past the Gotham City 13 miles sign, the sky's the limit.
DJ! Hey, here's the co-host with the mostest right there.
DJ says we're stealing the flavor of Morphin Mania, because that is also a show where we're flying completely by the seat of our pants, except at least on that show we always know what we're doing next time.
Yeah.
Which is easy, because it's just there's another... Have you been on that show yet?
I was on when you were doing.
I feel like you did one. I can't remember
the streams. Yeah, I was there for multiple episodes when you guys were doing the viewing parties.
That's right. Well, and I want to keep doing it that way. I just don't. Since Rabbit's not around anymore, I don't know if we'll be able to get away with it. But yeah,
Cast. You use Cast now, right? Have you gotten Cast
I haven't
going?
yet. You and I started trying to set it up, but we weren't able to finish it.
You should do it. I've been doing movie. It looks great. It works out great. The chat's great. Yeah. That last site you were using was real.
It was
sketchy.
Awful. It didn't work.
Yeah, it was real bad. I didn't like it.
Me neither. So never again.
Yeah, we'll get you hooked up with Cast, and
cool.
It works just as good, if not better, because you'll get it.
Well, I'd love to do more live commentary streams and stuff. And like we'll definitely. Sorry, there's a.
He's shoving his head into the corner of the bed right there. He's just like face first into the corner.
Well, that's okay.
Breathe?
There's a giant bug on my projector screen. So I gotta take care of that after this. Yeah, that's
all right.
That's one of the issues you run into sometimes when you work out of a basement. Sometimes there's bugs. They show up in basements. It's great. What even is that? I have no idea what that is.
Is it like a water bug? What is it?
We're gonna go ahead and bid everybody farewell now. Thanks a bunch for watching, everybody. Hope you had a good time. Dan's, I've missed you, man. This was an absolute treat. Thanks, buddy.
Always. It's always super fun. Everybody leave a like on this episode to let us know you enjoyed it. Because we need to know. We need to know that you like this show.
We will be back again in April for a Batmosphere, almost certainly. And everybody, stay safe. Don't go stir crazy. And I will be back with you with lots more videos soon on Geekvolution. And hopefully people are able to leave their homes and do other things besides watch YouTube videos soon. But thanks a bunch if you had nothing better to do for checking us out. And we will see you again next time. I was Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan Stews.
We'll see you later, folks. Bye.